Hi, good morning, and welcome to this vlog and podcast on ZP's FoodSense. So we were intending to go to this webinar on yesterday live, but because we were delayed at Medica, we've just a day late. But let me go forward now and just say, this week we've got a couple of questions. One of them is about the anatomy and pungency of ginger chili peppers. So I will talk about their anatomy, where the capsaicin is stored, and I'm also going to talk about what happens during the drying process. And then I'm also going to talk about adding alcohol to the menu. So the ZP FoodSense has chili, ginger, and TAS, Total Antioxidative Status at the moment. And so we're also asking the question whether we should add alcohol to this as well. So let me go forward a little bit faster. Just to say that if you're a FoodSense user and you're sort of measuring things like chili, then everyone gets online training that happens. Everyone has their, we have a weekly webinar where we answer questions and sort of add educational materials. And then we also do have a monthly webinar as well. So the monthly webinar is on the 14th of December. If you see a link pop up, I'll put it underneath the description or in the description down below. So that I'll put in a minute. Question number one is really about the complexity of chilies and how this can impact analysis of chilies when you're using them. So a chili and a chili powder are very heterogeneous mixtures. So heterogeneous mixtures mean that it's not, the same throughout. Whereas you look on the other part of the scale and you've got Tabasco sauce, that's much more of a homogeneous mixture. If you ever got any Tabasco sauce and just kind of ran it along a thin line, it does have bits in it, but it's no way as kind of complex as let's say an actual chili itself. So if you look at a chili, here's a cross section of a chili that we've sketched out here. It has many more than just 4 parts, and I'll just move myself across a bit. But we have the kind of upper flesh, we have the ovary, we have the seeds, and we have the bottom flesh. It's kind of interesting because I think anecdotally many people think that the heat is actually in the seeds. I think that's actually one of the mildest points. So if you kind of look at these, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 varieties here. If you look at the sort of capsaicin in terms of Scoville heat unit, what you find out is that most of the heat is actually in the ovaries, followed by, so the ovaries here, followed by the bottom flesh, then the upper flesh, and the seeds being the kind of least. So the reason I bring this up is because when you're sampling chilies and people say, oh, how hot is the chili? You can see that the starting point in this is a very heterogeneous sample. The capsaicin is not evenly distributed out. It's actually in one particular place. So how hot a chili is a kind of, depends how you sample it. But obviously, you've got to make sure that you kind of blend it, and you've also extract the capsaicin out of these parts. So as I say, ovary is the hottest. The bottom flesh is probably the second hottest, followed by the upper flesh, and then the seeds are the mildest. So just wanted to dispel sometimes that kind of that thought that the seeds is where all the capsaicin is. It's actually in the ovaries. Now what we're saying here is that it becomes even more complex with chilies because they have a kind of innate heat. But then, of course, a lot of the time, they're, for processing, they're actually dried down in some way. I just want to simplify the maths and say that it says here 88% of a chili is actually water. If I just simplify the maths down a little bit, then, approximately 90% of a chili is water, which makes the maths easier later on. Because what happens is then when you dry it, or when it is dried as part of processing, it essentially reaches 1/10 of its original volume. Which means that as the water content goes down, the heat goes up. This is just a simple sort of, I want to say, density, that you've got more capsaicin packed into a smaller volume. So if you look at these chilies here, we've got fresh chilies. So if we look at this Puhut Jolokia, then it's hot. So let's say 48,656 Scoville heat units. Theoretically, when you dry it down, it should go down to about, it should rather go up to 405,467. So it should go from 48,000 to 405,000. So I'll just say that again, make sure I get my numbers right. So when it's fresh, it's got a Scoville heat unit rating of about 48,656 Scoville heat units. When you dry it, it goes up to about 405,000 Scoville heat units. So that's an increase of 10x. Now, in reality, when you measure it, rather than it being sort of 405,000, it was actually 415,000. But look, that's only a 2% difference. So what that says then is that this on the rule of thumb, and I should have written this down then, the rule of thumb sort of says that the approximate rule of thumb is that your capsaicin goes up, and if I look at all these ratios, 8.5, 8.5, 12, 9.7, 9.6, 9.8, the rule of thumb is that your capsaicin concentration goes up by 10x when you go from the fresh chili pepper to the dried chili pepper, and that's very much in line with the water loss. So it's the water loss that kind of drives up the capsaicin, because essentially you're packing more capsaicin into a smaller volume. So just to do a mini summary. So the reason I bring this up is that ZP, we do a lot of testing of chilies. We have our FoodSense product, and it's a complex, let's say, sample, because actually, you know, the capsaicin is not evenly distributed. It's not even distributed in the places that people think it is. It's actually distributed in the ovaries of that chili pepper as opposed to the seeds. And then the other rule that sort of adds some complexity is that when you do drive off the water, you increase the Scoville heat unit by 10x. Now, the nice thing about that FoodSense product is you could actually test this along the production line, or along the production, so you could actually see this happening. And that's how, you know, we kind of get these numbers. Question number 2 is this. This is the app for FoodSense. So if you scan that, then there's an app, for example, on the Android store. And then if you've got chili, ginger, tass, these different, say, apps, I should have said QR code. There's an app on the store. The QR code on your Android phone will take you there. And then actually you can convert the app from chili to ginger to total antioxidative status just by using a QR code. So we are starting to ask people now if they're interested in having alcohol added to the menu. So this is just at the moment just sort of trying to find out from you guys whether alcohol is interesting, but just put it out there that we do have some information. Now, I realized here I haven't put a link to alcohol, but I will put a link underneath in the description box when I finished. So I say here thank you, but if I just want to summarize today, we just want to give some information around about the structure of capsaicin, and also, or structure of chili peppers rather, and also comment on the capsaicin concentration, how it increases with drying, and the theory and the practicalities align actually really quite well. And then the next one is, well, we've got chili, ginger, and total antioxidative status on that FoodSense. Are people interested in alcohol? I'd love to hear the comments, and also I'll put a contact us button on as well. So if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us regarding the FoodSense. Okay, thanks very much.